Okay.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Detroit in Black and White. Another edition of the wonderful Detroit Black and White. We are on the corner of Michigan and Trumbull at McShane's. If you're watching, we want you to like, subscribe, and share. You can find us on all platforms. Joining us this morning is Adolph Mongo. He's not here. He's not here. He's not here. He's not here. But who is here is Jim Nardone, who is the former chief of police in Trenton. We also have Mr. Allan Lengel.
Hello.
Deadline Detroit, former reporter for the Washington Post. And we have Mr. Eric Brown. They call me
Bonjour.
they call me the Rebel Rouser, but this is a Rebel Rouser.
Bonjour from France.
Detroit Black and White. Listen, we're going to have a fun-packed hour. We have a guest that's coming on. He's no stranger to Detroit Black and White. We have White Boy Rick coming on. And so we'll be able to ask questions. We want to thank everybody that's participating. Karen Winston, Duela Boyce, D. Holly, Tracy Huff, all of you guys, Tara McCrenner. Who else?
And we got Jim Nardone.
The guy from Highland Park,
Fighting
Fighting
the
the
Evil.
Evil.
Yeah.
Fighting the Evil.
Yeah,
Who's
Fighting the
always
Evil. Who's
got
always,
good
yeah.
stuff.
What's up? What up,
Sheridan.
Hey, Sharon. What up, though? Okay, so we're going to get started, and we're going to get started with the outrage. I'm going to go to Jim first. Do you have an outrage, Jim?
Actually, I have two, so I'm going to start here. I'm going to start with number one is Thursday we had a little discussion about the vice presidential candidate. I'm kind of embarrassed because number one, we shouldn't be attacking anybody that served. I have a shirt on today that says it's running for honor. A guy named Aaron puts on this benefit to help our veterans. And I belong to the Victory Gym, which I'm a proud member.
Oh, yeah.
They take care of the veterans, whether they're wounded bodies and sometimes wounded, minds, and they help these folks. And John and Aaron, as I mentioned, and Gary and Christy, and these people are out there every day fighting for our veterans. And we're proud of them and grateful for what they've done, the sacrifices they made for all of us, right?
Okay.
No matter who they are.
So you apologizing for what? For stating your opinion?
I'm not apologizing. I mean, he's
okay.
a politician, right? Politicians are
And they
different.
politrick, right?
And
Politricking. They be
typically,
politricking.
typically they don't talk about the veterans. The police officers sometimes talk too much, but anyways, people usually don't talk about some of the things that they've done. And politics is different, and we need to separate politics from where they are. So my real outrage today, and I just learned this last night, and I'm stunned. Actually, I'm actually absolutely stunned. I don't know where to go. It appears to be accurate. Tulsi Gabbard is on the terrorist watch list. Are you guys aware of this?
No.
Tulsi Gabbard is on the Quiet Skies watch list because she's considered possibly a domestic terrorist. So every time she flies, there's air marshals and TSA specialists.
Oh, what basis is
that? We don't know. We don't know. Well, the question is, I guess the question is because she beat the hell out of Kamala Harris in 2019, or is it that she beat the hell out of Kamala Harris like on December? The argument is it started on July 23rd. She went on, I guess, on Fox. I did not see the interview, and said that Kamala Harris was not prepared to serve as the president of the United States. On July 25th, she had 5 people, air marshals and TSA employees that were on every flight she made. She went to Rome, and then she flew from Austin to Dallas, etc. And
where'd you read this from?
Yeah.
it's all over the internet. It's everywhere. I'm not sure it's accurate, but it sounds lunatic.
It is
really
lunatic.
does.
It sounds, if it's true, it's super ludicrous. But
Well, here's what happened. Let me give you a quick example. What happened? She's labeled. If you're familiar with TSA, they have labels that they put on your boarding pass, and she's a quadruple S, which is for a secondary screening, right? So she went to a checkpoint, and TSA said, "Why are you having secondary screening? You have a military ID." So TSA basically confirmed it, and apparently we have. TSA is not a law enforcement organization,
Right.
But the U.S. Air Marshals are a U.S. Law enforcement organization, and people from the TSA have gone to their superiors and said, why are we screwing with Tulsi Gabbard? She's a lieutenant colonel in the military. So it's there. I'm not.
But we don't know why. We really don't.
We don't.
Know why.
I mean, I guess
I
Hillary
think it's
Clinton said
interesting.
that she was an operative for the Russians at one point.
I think it's interesting that this comes out after she says that
Gypsy Sally, is that the person you think of?
that Harris is not fit for office. I think it's quite interesting that this happens after that.
And it's also interesting that they show
that's just very strange.
clip from
to
the
me.
debate when Gabbard ate her up at the debate. So that's no coincidence. Obviously.
That's interesting.
I'm
They're
scared.
very
I am.
interesting. I'm very skeptical.
I'm skeptical that they would expend three. I mean, on a woman who's obviously not a threat, that they would expend 3 to 5
Why is it
earmarks.
obviously she's not a threat?
I've
We
never
don't
heard
know
of that. If you've got to put 3
We
to
don't know
5,
that. If she's on the list, that means that she is a threat. You don't know that. If you say obviously, you don't know that.
if I know, I'm saying if you've got to put 3
If
to
you don't
5
stop putting
sky
that finger in
marshals,
my face, I'm gonna bite it. Go ahead.
if we do 3 to 5 sky marshals on a plane, then I would think they'd be like, you can't fly. Why would you expend 3 to 5? I've never heard of that before.
Apparently, it was an explosives expert. It was a canine expert, and it was from TSA. And
I mean, if it's true,
Air
it's just
marshals.
insane.
Of course,
but,
it's insane.
But there's something that doesn't sound quite right.
Yeah, I would say
mean,
that's correct.
Yeah,
and
but-
it's
I mean,
What
if
they
it's
cooking don't
true, it's
smell
just
right.
total insane.
Right.
well, TSA did not deny that this is going on, so which is
I don't
interesting.
know. I'd be curious. I'd like to look into that more.
Okay. What is your outrage?
All right, I'm going
Alan?
to skip all the crazy politics that we've been talking about. I know it's gotten very intense here.
Well, that's okay. It's okay for us to have
No,
spirited conversation.
I'm all for, full disclosure of everything that's going on. I think we have to put things in perspective when we talk about Waltz. Even the Wall Street Journal, which is pretty conservative, wrote an editorial saying we're overblowing this. It's like, it's okay to bring out the facts in the case, but I think we have to put things in perspective here. But I'll go to the Middle East, really, that they're trying to get a ceasefire in exchange for the hostages. The IDF, which is the army, the Mossad, the Shin Bet, which are all the security, are all in favor of a pact already. They're saying, okay, we can live with what, nobody can be 100% secure. I mean, we could stay in Afghanistan and Iraq forever. We're never going to feel 100% secure. But Netanyahu is on one side, who's an extremist, who doesn't really want peace. And then we have Sinwar on the other side for Hamas. And I do see that people in the Gaza are starting to rebel against Hamas because they realize how screwed up it is. But we've had hundreds of thousands of people in the streets of Israel, in Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, protesting Netanyahu. There needs to be, the problem is with extremism and people who are so idealistic, and they say, we can't compromise. There has to be a compromise in the Middle East, or we just see endless death and destruction.
So you made a comment that Netanyahu does not want peace. Can you just give our viewers a little more thought on that? Why you believe that
Why I believe
Netanyahu
it?
does not
Well,
want
because-
peace?
While you're doing that, before you do that, I need you to fix your comment.
Oh, thank you.
Because
You represent Detroit.
Represent.
You can write. You represent.
Thank you.
Okay.
Why it is that you have people in the cabinet, including the defense minister, Galad, who has said Netanyahu is trying to sabotage this. He wants it. He's the head of the army, and he says we are okay with what we can work out with Hamas on this. The U.S. wants it. There are people in the cabinet, there are people who are saying that Netanyahu is trying to sabotage it.
so does he
Netanyahu
not want peace, or does he want total elimination of?
He wants.
of his
He
enemy?
wants well, the problem is he might want peace a little bit, but he's worried about once.
How can you have peace a little bit?
Well,
you either have it or you don't.
No, I'm
That's kind of
saying.
rough.
I mean, you don't.
Well,
you can't.
Let me
you can't have
explain.
it.
Can I explain?
You can explain, but I'm saying what you're saying doesn't even make
I'm-
sense. You can't have peace a little bit.
Well,
you either have peace or you don't.
All right.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I'm saying that he's not 100% in favor of peace, but he's struggling with it. partly because if there's peace, he's going to probably get pushed out. One of his, in Israel, you have a coalition. You have to have a certain number of people in your coalition to stay in power. People like Ben Gvir, who's one of his cabinet members, is saying, if you make peace, I'm leaving, and your whole administration is going to crumble. So he's torn where he starts saying, okay, maybe we should have peace. And Ben Gvir says, no. You make peace, I'm out of here. You're done. And he cares only about himself and his career, where the country and really the world. I mean, we have, Hezbollah is considering, there could be a big all-out war. And if Hamas and Israel have peace, Hezbollah might back off. Iran might back off.
So are we really that cynical to think that the leader of Israel cares more about people dying or his political ambition than he cares about people living and dying? That's not cynical?
I've been reading.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
I'm saying I read 3 Israeli papers. I read 3 Israeli papers a day. I read columnists, analysis. I read all the different sides. I read, Haaretz, which is very left. I read the Jerusalem Post, which is kind of leaning a little bit to the right. The Times of Israel, kind of down the middle. I read the Wall Street Journal, which does a great job in the Middle East. I read the Times, the Post. That's my, and I'm not alone in that. It's not cynicism. It's true.
I mean, how many times in our history have people said, well, this is a war president, he wants to go at war to protect his political. I have a hard time believing that any politician would put our young people's lives at risk for their political ambition. Right? I'm serious. I don't think people are that. That would be an evil human being to me.
There's been a lot of evil human beings in America.
I know that's right, Eric. I'm like, wow, really?
So give me an example of a U.S. president.
I'm not giving an example, but I don't believe that.
You can talk about Kennedy, or you can go back to the Vietnam War and talk about Johnson and.
You have Johnson, you have Reagan, you have Nixon, you have
we're
the current old guy, you have
which
Clinton.
old guy? Be more specific. We're all
number 46. That's somewhere disappeared in a bunker again, but there are plenty of presidents that have in America, as well as other politicians that have done things to the detriment of their own citizens.
But he came out to yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So it's that.
I'm not.
For some reason, people think America is this utopia, and it's far from that.
You think it's bigger than that?
I think it's bigger than that. I don't think people are sitting around going.
People and their egos, and they're driven by
what
they want more than
the advent of
what other people need.
The advent of crack cocaine. That's the best example you could give with regards to the government playing a role in the detriment of their own people.
I don't disagree with that point.
Okay.
My question is that we're talking about one man here. We're not talking about the system.
Well, it don't take one man. It takes a group of people.
So we're going to put a pin in it. We're going to go to commercial, and then we're going to go back to Eric and his outrage.
Neighborhood beautification. That's very important to Detroit. It's very important to block clubs, organizations, and people who live in the community. We got started with 2 lots and a vision of a treehouse center. Because if we can take these blighted lots, Detroit give us grants to be able to do something with them that the community wants, it's a plus because we're bringing our neighborhoods back to where we want them to be, where they should be. All because I live in Detroit.
In the heart of Detroit, Bruce Simpson. Our city ombudsman and his team are dedicated to making your voice heard. The City of Detroit Ombudsman is a liaison between the City of Detroit and all persons who have a complaint or inquiry into the operation of a city department or the conduct of a city employee. The Ombudsman works as an independent oversight to provide individuals with an opportunity of giving a confidential avenue to address complaints. You can reach the Ombudsman's office at 313-224-6000 or email us at ombudsmandetroitmi.gov. You can also visit us at the Coleman A. Young Municipal Center. For more information, go to www.detroitmi.gov and type in Ombudsman. We are here to help. In Detroit, we are all one team. When you win, we all win.
This is Alyssa Slotkin, Democrat running for the U.S. Senate. I want to share a story about who, more than anyone, taught me the importance of listening and accountability. It was President Barack Obama. I served in the White House on his national security staff. I got to see him in action, up close, and behind closed doors in the Oval Office. First, he was brilliant, and therefore demanded people really knew their stuff. It was President Obama who grilled me on issues and demanded accountability on what we said and did. That commitment to accountability is exactly the approach I use today, listening to our communities. It's why I've written an opportunity agenda with detailed plans to strengthen Black businesses, increase Black wealth, and provide real opportunities for our youth. Because, as President Obama taught me, you better say what you mean and mean what you say. So that's why I approve this message.
Vote early or on August 6th for a list.
And we're back, Detroit Black and White. Listen, we want to tell everyone that is watching today, thank you. All our viewers, if you want to participate, please put your comments in the comments section. We will acknowledge your comments. We were right in the middle of a conversation with Eric, and we're going to go back to Eric, and then Eric, we want you to do your outrage.
I'm going to take off my hat and look directly into the camera. This podcast is called Detroit in Black and White. My outrage is a black and white issue. The travesty of justice with regards to Michael Jackson being sentenced from 18 months to 15 damn years for lying to the damn police. Get the fuck out of here. At the end of the day, where were you at in 1989 when the police lied and convicted 5 black men in Central Park, New York? So to say that his crime of lying to the police, when we knew the murder was a bullshit prosecution, and sentence someone up to 15 years for lying to the police? Really? Police lie all the damn time to get convictions. No disrespect, Jim. Or to get people to confess. So come on, Judge. Margaret Vaughn, whatever the hell your name is, you were wrong. You admitted you were wrong by even saying that you disagreed with the damn verdict of these jurors. So you need to remove yourself from the bench because you obviously have a bias against black men and probably black people in general. 18 months to 15 years for lying to the police? Really?
Let me say this. I think that when people are looking at the ballot, when you guys are voting, you need to pay attention to the people that you're voting for. Now, in this case, listen, the judge has the discretion. The judge has to follow the law. The law says, hey, you cannot, the United States Supreme Court says you cannot go back and charge this guy. It's the same facts, the same things that's going on. You can't do that. But, and then they came back with a sentencing recommendation. It should have been probation.
Right, but to that part.
The judge has to follow the law, but the judge also has discretion. The judge, in her discretion, decided no probation. We're going to give you 18 months to 15 years in prison.
Not that the judge and her bias gave him 18 months to 15 years, because again, the recommendation was probation. So for her to give him 18 months to 15 years for lying, I mean, come on, people.
Right. Now, as a defense attorney, you're going to argue for your client and you want to mitigate the damage. And of course, his attorney argued for probation. I agreed he should have gotten probation. But as a judge, and people need to understand this, when you guys are looking at candidates, when you guys are looking to maybe select candidates or maybe to place someone on the bench because there's a judicial vacancy, these are the things that you have to look at. You have to look at their history. So I feel like this is very reminiscent of when O.J. Simpson stole his stuff back, and he ended up going to court, and then that was a very high sentence for the crime that he committed.
And so, Judge, let me recommend to you, you read the book by Bruce Wright, Black Robes, White Justice. Black Robes, White Justice. Because what you did yesterday is a travesty. And as Vanessa said, pay attention to those when you go, the down ballot issues, which includes the judges. Pay attention because race matters on the bench.
All right. I have been following the case. I followed the sentencing yesterday.
Me too.
I'll say, first of all, the prosecution, I think, they did a bad job of charging. They threw out way too many charges. They made it confusing for the jury. The jury acquitted on 2 of the charges for premeditated murder and second-degree murder. And then I don't get it. I've never covered anything like this. Then they had him charged with felony murder, separate from that. So on the first 2 charges, they acquitted on the murder charges. And on the felony charge, they hung. I think it was 7-5 in favor of conviction. And then on the
Which
home,
didn't go sense to
the home
it didn't make
invasion
sense at all.
is 6-6, which is even what, either you did it or you didn't. I mean, if you're going to vote 7-5 to convict, how can you vote 6-6 for home invasion? It was very confusing. But the judge basically said, look, according to the Supreme Court ruling of 2009, if they're acquitted on one charge and they hang on others that are similar factually to that she has to dismiss the charges. So here on the one charge of lying, there's certainly a debatable thing whether, look, they lied to him,
People lie all the time.
They lied. I mean,
the ex-boyfriend supposedly lied.
May I?
You can talk. This is a conversation. It's a spirited conversation. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I'm in the middle of the conversation.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead.
So the
And
thing,
if I want to interrupt, I will do that. Go ahead.
well, go ahead and speak then.
Go ahead.
All right. So anyway.
I'm gonna keep fucking with you. Excuse
Yeah,
me.
well,
Go ahead.
all right, fuck it. Go ahead. I'm done.
Well, I have one
I mean,
comment.
I
Right,
do want to
please.
explain something.
Right,
If you
go
let me,
ahead.
Hey, what's
if
your-
you
ahead.
let me explain it. I'm not advocating.
Man, I'm frustrated.
I'm not advocating one way or another, but the thing is, okay, the judge said, look, you're a habitual offender. This was going to be his 4th conviction. The guy is a habitual criminal. And I could I'll bet on it that once he gets out, he's going to be back out there again.
Stealing change.
He's going to be, well, whatever it is, he's a habitual criminal.
I don't buy that
So-
either. I don't buy that. I don't buy
Well, wait a minute.
small-time
Wait a minute.
criminal.
Yeah, he's a
Okay.
small-time criminal. Again, she had no.
Oh,
What she
she-
did
go ahead,
did
You
was
have the
pull a
power to do
mulligan.
that.
She pulled a mulligan based on the fact that she thought he was guilty, even though the jurors found that he was not guilty for the most serious crime. She feels indebted to the family of whatever Woll, I can't remember her first name,
It's Samantha.
to give them something to feel good about. There's no way in hell someone should go to jail for up to 15 years for lying to the popo.
It's not
I'm sorry.
15 years. First of all, let's
No. The sentencing is 18 months to 15 years.
Yes. Okay.
So how you say it's not 15 years? 18 months to 15 years.
Look, listen. If you know the justice system at all,
I know the justice
and
system.
know
Do
it-
you know? Do you know the justice system?
I do.
It
I've
says
been covering
18
for
months to
over
15
30
years.
Yes. I've
So
been
what's your
covering
point? What's your point? What's your point?
Well, let me
Go
can
ahead
I
and tell
say
your
what
point because I'm sure it's not going to make sense. You're trying to justify the bullshit of a judge that sent a guy
I'm
to
an
jail for up to 15 years.
You're saying 15 years. I'm telling you right now. Look, it's 18 months to 15 years. She's giving him credit for 243 days that he was in prison. So he's going to maybe serve less than a year.
Right.
He's going to get out. And the 15 years is hanging there under the bet that he's going to
That he go out and do something else and he
Yeah.
violate, he get to 15 years. I understand law.
He's not going to get 15.
I'm not a lawyer. I
He
understand
still
law.
won't
I
get-
need
he
to get
still
the
won't get
holiday in
15.
express. Understand the law. At the end of the day, her ruling was bullshit.
So here's the deal, though. The
It-
recommendation was probation,
Correct.
but the other part of this is, as a judge, you have the discretion,
Right.
and she used the discretion. And people need to understand that just because I have to explain this to people all the time, just because I had to do this the other day, just because this is the recommendation, does not mean that the judge is going to follow the recommendation. We have to put up an argument to say, hey, look at this, look at that, look at this, so that, maybe the judge will rule in your favor in terms of giving the person probation. In this case, no, it appears to Eric and other people that the sentencing is supposed to be punitive, but that it was way overboard. Now, to Allan's
You've been
credit,
around.
I've said this myself. A lot of times, people who do things like that, who have a history of committing, if you got out of this, listen, go somewhere, get some training, get some education, get a job. Give up your life of petty crime because clearly you're not good at it because you keep getting caught.
But words matter, Vanessa, and that's why
I'm
she
not saying
using
that
her.
they don't.
That's why she using her recommendation and mentioned habitual because she know and have a good feeling that he's going to come out of jail, commit another crime, so he can get those 15 years.
So
Words matter.
I have just one quick comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
First of all, Eric, I have no problem with what you're saying. Police officers lie, accountants lie, judges lie, lawyers lie.
I don't
Everybody.
lie.
I'm not making excuses
I
for the
don't
police
lie.
officers, but you know it happens in Detroit more often than it should. Sadly, over the years, right? In my opinion, this judge, and I can't see inside of her head. She sentenced this young man for involuntary manslaughter. Is what she did. She sentenced him for the crime that she believes he committed, and the jury found him innocent, which is a complete miscarriage of justice.
Right.
Regardless of sentencing this man for lying to the police to up to 15 years is more like a involuntary. It's more like a manslaughter charge to me. That's the way I see it.
And what do you think he's going to serve of that right now? He's got 18 months. He's got credit for 243 days. How long do you think he's at? He's not going to be in there for more than a year.
I'm not disputing how long, or that's not even the point. The point is she sentenced him to 18 months. I don't even know if he's going to prison. He's probably going to serve 6 months in the Wayne County Jail and be
breaking into
released.
jail for
But
a few
that's
months.
not even the point here. I don't believe that's the point. The time served. Well, you know, we're arguing about it, the right is arguing about this guy that we gave back to Russia, right? That served whatever 12 years in Germany, wherever he served, somewhere in Europe. I'm not sure where he served. But we let murderers out in 10 or 12 years in a lot of cases, 15. It used to be 20 years was a standard life sentence in this country. Now it's more like, I'd say 12. My point is, you don't sentence people to a possibility of 15 years in prison for telling a lie. I'd like to find another example in the state of Michigan where we've done that. Regardless of, the crime is lying to the police. The crime isn't breaking into a car 6 years ago.
Right.
So
I get it, but what, and I'm sure Eric understands this. I think what Allan was trying to convey is that they not only look at what you're looking at presently. Okay, you lied to the police officer. She looked at his history and looked at what is the likelihood of you getting right and doing something right. I think, and a lot of other attorneys think that she went way too far. But listen, the law allows her to do that.
but the probation, the recommendation
Was
was probation.
probation.
I would say the top number was too high, but the idea of 18 months with 243 days served, I'm not sure that's unreasonable considering his criminal history. And you know,
What about your
it
innocent
is a
to proven
crime.
guilty?
It is a crime. The jury convicted him of lying. They charged him. Whether you believe, there's people who argue that that charge should have never been made. The defense attorney argued about that. Whatever it is, you can't also, I mean.
Has you ever been convicted of a violent crime? See, you know more than I do.
No.
No,
Has
He was not convicted of a violent crime, but
No.
he was found that while he was serving, there were violent incidents in prison.
Well, that happens.
People fight in prison.
Listen, a few weeks ago, I think I was telling Eric about I went to go see a
We
client,
might end up
and he
getting violent here.
exactly. They beat his tail in jail. I mean, they kicked this boy's butt. Both of his eyes were black. So that happens. That happens. But the bottom line is this: even with the 200 and something days that he gets credit, I'm of the school of thought is that our Constitution says that you're innocent until proven guilty. Why was his bond such that he could not get out of jail?
Right, and it's also
Why
There's
why
hundreds
was that?
of people in Wayne County walking around awaiting charges on
Exactly.
murder.
Exactly. And listen, if this
and this
had
is
been,
one of the unintended consequences of the 1994 crime bill.
if this had been in federal court, guess what?
He'd be sitting right next to us interviewing us right now. Being interviewed by us.
Exactly. So, but
He was found felony murder. He was found not guilty, right?
Mm-hmm.
yes. And there are people like Eric. I mean, Eric came in here fired up. There are a lot of people who are really outraged, but there are people on the other side, like Allan, that feels like, well, we really didn't get justice.
Well,
But I mean,
You
okay,
can't
the
punish
judge did
people.
what she did.
look,
But
I'm not
I
saying
said
there's not justice there, because look, there was a trial. There was some deadlocked counts. I think the prosecution did a bad job of charging. They put too many charges out there. So there were some people who wanted to convict, some that didn't. But that's our justice. That's our justice system. Is that, look, there was a verdict. She ruled in favor. She took the Supreme Court ruling into effect and said, this is essentially double jeopardy. I can't let you retry this. And that's the way.
Hold up, Allan.
So
Hold that thought, Allan. She said, I cannot retry, even though I do not agree with that decision. She wants to retry
Yeah,
me.
she did say that.
Yeah, she did say that. So she's, I mean, again, this is an example.
No, your job is to follow the law.
Right.
Your job is to
And that's
follow
what
the law.
she did.
I don't care. She did, but why give the commentary about, I don't agree with the United States Supreme Court? As a judge, you can't. I mean, to me, you shouldn't say that.
So do you?
I will say it to you in person, right? In a sideline
I think the judge can say
conversation.
whatever they want.
What do you expect
during
they do?
during a sentencing?
They do, and I don't think
They
it's
do. They do.
So what do you expect happens going forward with the appeal on the charges? I mean,
Man, he was. By the time
I'm not
he
talking
get
about
to the-
his charges. I'm talking about the prosecution's appeal to being able to recharge him.
I don't think they're going to win, because it's going to go to Court of Appeals,
It's not.
and if necessary, the Supreme Court. Well, the Supreme Court is like, I think, Alito and
It's not.
It's not going to end
it
up in
was-
the
it
U.S.
was-
Supreme
But
Court.
you have
It's
someone
They
commented.
say no.
Someone
Not-
commented, and I can't remember who it was, and they hit the nail on the head. That judge appeased
Yes.
the Jewish community.
Oh
think
yeah,
that's-
somebody
that's a
did
comment.
say
You know
that.
what?
Somebody did say
I
that.
saw
So,
that. I
yeah,
saw that.
somebody
You know
Oh,
did.
there you go, right there. Yeah.
Yeah, you can say that, but you know what? Look, she was a
He
prominent
did.
person. She worked on campaigns, on high-profile Democratic campaign.
Oh,
She
okay.
was-
no, that justifies because
Well,
it's a
let's go
Democratic
back.
campaign.
She was a
I mean,
person.
come on,
It was
because-
a high-profile case in the community.
Politics ain't got nothing to do with it.
Let's go
She
back
happened
to
to work
what
on.
You mean to
Exactly.
tell me if she was a Catholic, they would have said, "Fuck the Catholics. We're only going to do this for the Jews"?
Let's go back to what Timothy
Bullshit.
just said.
That's
Timothy
total
just.
bullshit.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Timothy
Go ahead.
basically said, and I don't want to speak for Timothy, but what he said basically is now it's in the hands of the Department of Corrections. He didn't say that exactly, but he's saying
Yeah, the
now
parole board,
who he has no standing in how much time he serves. What if they say, yeah, we did 18 to 15, but then they decide, he killed this lady. We're going to keep him in prison for 7 years.
Or if he get into a
No,
fight
he
in
did.
prison.
Out of his
He get
hands.
tickets. He get tickets. When he gets
Right, he
inside,
get into a
his
fight in
tickets and
jail
stuff.
based on someone being the aggressor. He retaliates. That's a ticket that he'll get.
But the point is now it's out of his hands. It doesn't matter what he thinks. He's 18 to 15. They may at 6 months say, no, that's not enough. 12 months, they may say, you know what, we want him to do 12 years. He has no control over what they do.
I don't put nothing
He has
past
no
Jim.
control.
I don't put nothing past the system to purposely put him in situations where he gets into a fight and accrue tickets. I would not be.
Really?
I would not. Come on, the system is.
Really? You believe that?
I believe
I
it.
expect
They
he'll
will keep
be
him in
out.
jail. They will keep him in
And
jail as long as they
I
can
expect
because of
he'll be
this.
out in less than I expect he'll be out in less than a year. That's not even my point. My point is,
Well, time
it's
served
not up to
243
him.
days. That means that you expect him to be out before this year ends.
A year from today, he should be out of. Yeah.
He probably will not serve more. He'll probably serve another 6 months or something. Whatever. Yeah.
All right.
But he was
Listen,
acquitted. I think that's the point.
Right.
He was
found
acquitted
not
of
guilty
murder.
Right.
Is
But
it-
you know what the sad
But
part
there
of
were
it-
also,
listen,
he wasn't totally, what
If he was-
happened was, they deadlocked on the other,
right.
there were 7 people who wanted to convict him of murder. And so it wasn't a total acquittal, but under the law, it was.
He was acquitted.
So
And
Let's
but
go
here's
back.
the
Hold on,
deal.
let's go back
But here's
another.
the deal, though. Let me ask you this, though. So he was found not guilty of the murder. Well, the question remains: well, who is?
The guy that got immunity.
Who is?
The guy that got
He
immunity.
only had
Who
immunity.
is?
On
The guy that got
stand.
immunity?
He had immunity on the stand. That was it.
You have a guy that said I killed. You have a guy that said I killed someone. Well, no, but I didn't do it. Maybe I was drugged up, so maybe I'm misspeaking. That right there was a Johnny Cochran moment, and that's what the defense attorney should have done. This fool said he killed her. You have my client on trial. No blood on his. I mean, come on.
Also had evidence that the guy was not even in the house.
Right.
Mr. Jackson wasn't in the house. His phone did not ping in the house.
Marlon wants
He was
to know.
not even in the house. Yeah.
Marlon wants to know if Kamala Harris can be charged and convicted and thrown in jail in Michigan for lying in Michigan. I don't know exactly what Marlon's talking about, but I think it's Marlon.
What did she lie about? Yeah, what did she lie
Come on,
about?
Marlon, give us a little more
we know that
information.
they are politicking, but what did she lie about? What is he talking about?
Come on, Marlon. Lied about not.
Is there?
She probably lied about not.
I just want to say
usurping democracy. That's what she lied about.
The defense attorney did bring up the ex-boyfriend who made the confession, and that was used throughout the trial. So, anyways, we do have we have our guests on. We have
good comments.
All right, Richard Wershe Jr. Hey, Rick. How are you?
How's everybody doing?
Hey, good. And so I'm going to do a little intro. Rick Wershe, who's now 55 years old. Is that correct?
Thanks, Allan.
And you're still a young man, Rick. And Rick served 32 years in prison. He got out in July 20th, 2020. And it's a great story of you have now a cannabis business. Is that correct?
I have a cannabis brand. That's correct.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit about the about the business. And you're doing wholesale right now?
Yeah, I have a line. I do about 250 stores. It's called The Eighth by White Boy Rick. The Eighth is your Eighth Amendment, which is the ban on criminal punishment, excessive bail, excessive fines. So we kind of use it as a tool.
Okay. And so when you say you have 250 outlets, is that just in Michigan or is that around the country? And how?
California now with my vapes and my old friend Kevin.
And you also when you were in prison and you had the name White Boy Rick, which was given by, was it the media who gave you that name or was it the FBI?
That's pretty fair.
I'm sorry?
The media, pretty fair.
The people did. Okay.
Dancing with that.
Okay.
Yeah, the sound is kind of.
Yeah, the sound is. Are we getting the sound?
Mike, can you fix your mic?
Yeah, I think, Rick, we're having a little bit of a hard time hearing you.
Yeah, we are. We're having a hard time hearing you. Rick, I have a question. Rick, I have a question. Last time that you were on the show, you were talking about how, because you were juvenile when you got caught up in the system, and how you were giving back to the community, and you were doing things with juveniles in Wayne County, Macomb. I don't know if you said Oakland County. Are you still doing those things with juveniles?
Absolutely. I was at a juvenile program. I'm in Miami now. I was at a juvenile program Thursday morning. I took the race boat out there for the kids to look at. I donated some clothes, some sneakers. Also, right now, we're raising money for Love for a Child, which last year I donated over $50,000. So we're in the process of doing that again this year. I kind of do that in honor of Ralph Maselli. His old secretary, Teresa Mango, got me involved in that. So
Ralph was your attorney
in the fundraising, which Love for a Child sends foster kids in Michigan to summer camp. So I'm pretty big in part of that.
Okay.
And Rick, let me ask you this: there are there's one documentary and one film out on your life. One was a documentary. I think they're both on Netflix, if I'm correct. And one is more of a fictional a drama with Matthew McConaughey, and the other is more of a documentary. Have you seen both of them? And what's your thoughts on the accuracy and of those?
I've never watched the movie. I have no interest in it. The movie's probably 20% reality, and the documentary I thought was very well done. But I believe we're working on a new one. We're a little slow in coming. I didn't realize, the process of editing after you're done filming. So, but I think the new one will be much better, much more informative, and I think it tells the true side of everything, and it'll show, after 33 years, what's going on in my life.
Rick, I want to ask you a question. With the movie, you said it was 20% accurate. I believe that. Did they contact your family or anything to get your input into the movie? And did you receive any benefits from the movie?
I wasn't allowed to receive benefits because I was locked up. So we'll say no to that.
Okay.
But they did contact me, and okay. I'll give you guys the quick story. I worked probably 300 hours with Scott Silver. I believe Allan knows who Scott is. If you guys don't, but Scott now is the biggest writer in Hollywood. Joker drops October 4th. Scott wrote that, so everybody go out and support it. Make it the second time a rated R movie grosses $1 billion. So Scott is the only person from that whole process of the movie making that I stayed in touch with and that I consider a very dear friend of mine.
So Rick, we had a conversation earlier about how, and I'm not sure if you were watching or how long you've been watching or listening, about how the government can infringe upon the lives of citizens. You are a perfect example of that because they abused you in such a way and had you be the fall guy for a situation that they created. So with regards to the involvement of the government in your eventual downfall that led you to prison, because you were a juvenile, if I'm not mistaken, when you first got into the game, correct?
I was a juvenile when I was arrested. I was 17, which you're no longer, thank God for people like Sherry Gay Denyogo and Pete Lucido, that you no longer can be charged automatically as a juvenile in Michigan. It's 18, which I still think young. I think until you're 21, and I think you need to, studies have shown that the prefrontal cortex in a male isn't developed till 26 years old fully. So I just think that in today's day and age where we have all these scientific studies behind things and we've evolved so much as a society, I think we've regressed in, giving kids and young men the attention that they need when they make a mistake.
And with all that being said, how common is it, in your opinion, that police officers or law enforcement people lie?
Listen, I'll be honest with you. I have police officers now that I consider my friends that are very good police officers. But still to this day, I see so many people in law enforcement continuing to lie. And, their success is based on convictions. And there was some people when I piped in that I heard you guys talking about, and I don't do politics on either side. But, so many people have lied and locked people up. And there's a young man, by the name of Dwayne Williams. And me and Jimmy Wahlberg are very close. And Jimmy goes and speaks in prisons. And this is actually the first time I'm talking about this. Jimmy called me up. I was here in Florida, and he goes, "Hey, bro," he goes, "I think this kid's innocent." And I was like, "Come on, bro." And he's like, "Bro, I truly believe this kid's innocent." And thank God that, Wayne County created a conviction integrity unit. And I know Valerie Newman, and I respect her more than any person probably in law enforcement. And I called Valerie Newman and I said, "Hey, Val, will you take a look at this case?" And she goes, "Based on what?" And I told her what I was like, "Well, Jimmy Wahlberg says this." And she kind of chuckled and she said, "I'm going to look into this." And a year later, the young man was released and he was innocent, man.
No,
Excuse
Rick,
me?
I agree with you. I agree with you. Newman she's good people. However, that unit, there's only one person. It's severely understaffed.
Well,
And if
you have to talk to Kim Worthy about that.
Severely understaffed. Severely understaffed. It's only one person.
Listen,
And
I'm with you. I think, you know, I think if you're innocent, one day in prison is too much. For these young men, that we're releasing on a daily basis to spend 10, 15, 20 years in prison, like, I can't fathom sitting there and not have done anything. I sat there for 32 years, 7 months for something that if I was going to go to prison, I felt like I should have got 2 or 3 years for. But to sit there for something that you didn't do anything at all, I mean, that's it boggles my mind that in this country that we live in, that we call the greatest country in the world, that goes on. No.
Well, we were just talking about that earlier, Mr. Wershe. 20 years, 18 years, 17 years for murder, to do 32 years for a drug conviction is outrageous. But I just had one quick question. I don't know if you saw, we were talking about the Samantha Woll case a little bit earlier, and the sentencing that the judge made. And I'd like to know what your thoughts are that based on your advocacy for.
I'm sorry, but I had a late night, and if Allan didn't wake me up, I wouldn't be here.
You know what
let me ask you this.
You know what
Rick.
I told Allan? Yeah. When I said, "Is your guest is Rick here?" Yes, he said no. I said, "Oh, he probably had an edible."
So can someone
let me ask you, Rick.
You said what?
I usually do eat an edible to sleep, and I promise you, I'm a big advocate against pharmaceutical companies. So I used to take an Ambien and be able to stay up all night. If I take a gummy, I'm sleeping within 15 minutes.
Oh, really? Well, Rick, let me ask you this. You've got it's a documentary you're working on right now. What did the press, what did the other documentary get wrong? Certainly the movie, I saw the movie seemed very inaccurate. But tell me the documentary and what did the media get wrong the whole time I'm reporting on you?
I mean, just, to call a 17-year-old kid a drug kingpin, I think you're out of your mind. I almost swore, but I'm trying to not curse as much, so bear with me. But I think they're out of their minds to call anybody. Listen, drug kingpins to me are in other countries. To go into an inner city and label someone a drug kingpin so you can give them 30 years or 40 years. And Allan, I think you remember when I came home, I wore a Free Big Meech shirt. And I was an advocate for Meech and saying that he did not deserve 30 years in prison. Thank God they let his brother out early, and Terry's out in the community, successful, doing good things. To say that someone, when you look at these other countries, and I know people from these other countries that I became friends with down here and while I was in prison. And, one of them I brought up at my hearing, and you were there, Teresa Dominguez, got indicted in Michigan for 7 tons of cocaine in 1988 and received 11 years. But you call us kids drug kingpins? And
the disparity at that time, between federal time, a lot of the guys who were much bigger than you were doing federal time and got 15 years. You at the time got life sentence without parole.
That's terrible.
So there was the over 650. Is that what you were charged with? The over 650 law that Michigan had? Is that what it was? The over 650?
Michigan, thank God you finally got some politicians with some common sense. I say that lightly. And they repealed the law, and it still took a long time for them to let everybody out that was doing a life sentence from back then.
For the 650 plus.
Rick, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back, go back to you, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Okay.
Neighborhood beautification. That's very important to Detroit. It's very important to block clubs, organizations, and people who live in the community. We got started with 2 lots and a vision of a treehouse center. Because if we can take these blighted lots, Detroit give us grants to be able to do something with them that the community wants, it's a plus because we're bringing our neighborhoods back to where we want them to be, where they should be. All because I live in Detroit.
In the heart of Detroit, Bruce Simpson. Our city ombudsman and his team are dedicated to making your voice heard. The City of Detroit Ombudsman is a liaison between the City of Detroit and all persons who have a complaint or inquiry into the operation of a city department or the conduct of a city employee. The Ombudsman works as an independent oversight to provide individuals with an opportunity of giving a confidential avenue to address complaints. You can reach the Ombudsman's office at 313-224-6000 or email us at ombudsmandetroitmi.gov. You can also visit us at the Coleman A. Young Municipal Center. For more information, go to www.detroitmi.gov and type in Ombudsman. We are here to help. In Detroit, we are all one team. When you win, we all win.
This is Alyssa Slotkin, Democrat running for the U.S. Senate. I want to share a story about who, more than anyone, taught me the importance of listening and accountability. It was President Barack Obama. I served in the White House on his national security staff. I got to see him in action, up close, and behind closed doors in the Oval Office. First, he was brilliant, and therefore demanded people really knew their stuff. It was President Obama who grilled me on issues and demanded accountability on what we said and did. That commitment to accountability is exactly the approach I use today, listening to our communities. It's why I've written an opportunity agenda with detailed plans to strengthen Black businesses, increase Black wealth, and provide real opportunities for our youth. Because, as President Obama taught me, you better say what you mean and mean what you say. So that's why I approve this message.
Vote early or on August 6th for Alyssa Slotkin, Democrat.
We're back, Detroit Black and White. We're here every Saturday, the corner of Trumbull and Michigan at McShane's. We're going to go back to our guest, Rick. We're going to have you finish up your thought, give your last parting words, and then we're going to go back to the panel.
All right, Rick, tell us what's so you're working on the documentary, your business. What's the business plan? Are there plans to expand?
There is. I'll be in Missouri the end of this month. I've kind of dabbled in offshore powerboat racing now. So we had a big boat up in St. Clair. We won the race last Sunday in St. Clair, Michigan. So we have a 38-foot Doug Wright. Thanks, JR. Thanks, Doug Wright. Amazing opportunity that I have. So I'll be at the shootout in Missouri. We're trying to set the speed record there, 165 miles an hour on the water with outboards. I have a movie coming out. Shout out to Mike Young, Haha Davis, Stealing Jokes, out October 4th. I have a cameo in it.
What is that? What kind of movie is it?
It's based around Haha Davis is a huge comedian in our community. My brother, Mike Young, is a producer and stand-up comedian. Both of them I love dearly. They gave me the opportunity when I first came home to get a cameo in a film. So that drops October 4th.
What's the cameo? What are you doing in that cameo?
Actually playing inmate, guys.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Rick, I want to thank you for coming on the show. It sounds like you're living your best life.
Listen, I try to live a good life. I try to do good things. I surround myself with good people. Sometimes I stumble, I get up, but we have good things going on. We have several juvenile programs we're working with. Love for a Child, we raise amazing amounts of money for every year. We have other things that we're trying to address in the community with juveniles. So that's something that's near and dear to my heart, to try and give those kids something that I didn't have as a child, the guidance and the love that I didn't have. Me and my friends were trying to do that. I want to say one thing. I know people have different thoughts about cannabis. The things that I do in our community would not be possible without cannabis. I would do them on a much smaller level. The people in cannabis, the Bloomery, Jars, HOD Exclusive, many, many more. These people help me do what I do in the community. King of Buds. Like, there's so many people in our community that are helping me do things through cannabis. When I call these people and say, hey, I need a check for this program for these kids, no questions asked, they write a check. And, I can't thank them enough for the help that they give me.
And the very fact you're doing something to give back to the community, I got to give you much love and praise for that.
Absolutely.
I started it before I got out. The naysayers said I was doing it trying to get out. I do it on a much larger level now. And I'll tell you this, the day that I do it, it means more to me when I'm there giving. It means more to me than the day when you know, I like cars or boats or whatever. I feel better than the day that I get a new car.
That's awesome. Well, Rick,
And one of my old friends, I want to say that helps me a lot, Allan, that I would like to have on one day to kind of set the record straight on a few things. Boo Curry, Rudell Curry, you know, we now work together, and
wow.
he's been my brother forever. I love him. And, you know, we do a lot of good things together. We formed our own nonprofit, and we'll be doing a lot of things in the city together.
All right.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll
All
talk
right,
about that, Rick.
Yeah, we're
All
going to
right,
have you
thanks.
come back. You're welcome to come back to Detroit in Black and White anytime. You have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks,
Thank you
Rick.
guys so much.
Okay.
Everybody enjoy their weekend.
Thank
God
you.
bless.
Thank you.
So, thanks, Allan, for inviting
All right.
Rick onto the show. I think we
Even a broke clock is right twice a day, so good job, Allan.
Exactly, right.
Quit picking on my buddy Allan. Leave him.
Now, Allan wants to get picked on. He picked the wrong fights. But at any rate.
I'll take you all on at the same time.
Okay. All right. So we're about to wrap up. We're going to ask for your last. We have 4 more minutes. So what do you have to say?
I'll be brief. I'm going right back. If you look at my arm, don't look at my arm, my shirt, there's a 22 on here. And what I meant to say earlier, which I didn't say at the beginning, is we lose 22 veterans a day to suicide.
Oh, wow.
And we need to be better. We need to house our veterans. We need to give them the treatment they need for their wounds that are separate from their physical wounds. And we just have to, go ahead.
Speaking of veterans, you know, in the court system, they have what they call veterans court. We do need to take care of our veterans. Prison is not a place for veterans to be. If they need mental health treatment, we need to give them that treatment. We need to make sure that they have housing. They give up their lives so that we can live in this free country. And the way, to me, that we treat veterans is despicable.
They sacrifice their whole life. They don't just sacrifice the 2 years or the 4
Absolutely.
years or the 6 years or the 24 years. They sacrifice. And thank you to my dad. My dad was a veteran, and he received treatment at the VA in Ann Arbor for a lot of years, and they were really good to him. The only trick there was he happened to serve. He wasn't in combat, but he served during the time of the Korean conflict. And they have certain classifications. The VA needs to help all our veterans, not just the ones that served during those periods.
All right. Allan,
I'm going to do something fairly benign and talk about the Lions. Say that I'm looking forward to the Lions season, although I watched a little bit of the exhibition game the other night, and it felt like I was watching the old Lions. I mean, because none of the starters are there. They played not very well in general, but it felt like I was watching the old team. But they have a phenomenal team, and I'm looking forward to the season.
Oh, you're really excited about it, huh?
I'm looking forward to it since the Tigers suck. The Pistons are going to suck. The Red Wings may be better, but the Lions are really Detroit's team.
All right. And Eric, your party thought.
You know, my parting thoughts pertains to all of the money and enthusiasm that's being raised. You know, we're talking about the veterans and how they struggle once they come back to America. And if just some of that same enthusiasm for politicians, some of that same fundraising efforts given to politicians could just be given back into the community, give to the homeless, give to the mental health agencies, give to the veterans, we will have a much better life in America without the morass of politics and politicking, because our focus is on the wrong thing. We as a country that call ourselves the greatest in the world have to do better to care more about the people and not the politicians and the politics.
Okay, thanks, Eric. My parting words are, if you are watching this show, we want you to like, subscribe, and share. We want you to continue to watch every Saturday. You're welcome to come in and partake and participate with a live audience. My parting thoughts is this. Listen, Vanessa Moss, you see this t-shirt? Vanessa Moss, I'm a write-in candidate for 36th District Court. And I want you to write my name in on November the 5th. I want you to become an ambassador, not a volunteer, but an ambassador for the movement for Vanessa Moss to be judge in 36th District.
And I'd like to say, my name is Vanessa Moss, and I approve this ad.
Thank you.
They want you to stand up and show the shirt.
Okay. Oh. Y'all want to see my shirt? Y'all know I had to swag it out, right? Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. All right. And thanks everybody for watching. And we will see you next Saturday. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Lady T. I call her Lady T. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Jim. And Adolph will be back raising all kinds of saying next week. All right. We out.